Hi, it's the M.L.M for the Soul channel. I do have a new topic for today. Before I begin, I just would like to say, may the words and expressions of my mouth and the thoughts and meditations of my heart find favor and acceptance before you, Hashem. This is the continuation of the Mesillas Yesharim, which is called The Way of the Upright, or the Path of the Just, by the Ramchal Rav Moshe Chaim Lutzato. And this is from the Art School Yaf edition. This is what the Sefer looks like, if you still are not aware of that. And I will have a link below to Art School, so you can check out all that they offer. So this is part number 69. Baruch Hashem, this is the continuation of chapter 19, which will be going on for quite a while, because it is quite a long, I think it's one of the longest chapters, or the longest. So last time was just the beginning of the chapter, and talking about the elements of Chassidus, which is pronounced, or Chassidut, how you pronounce it, which is the defined as piety. And last time I was talking about the Chassidus indeed between man and Hashem, and also between man and his fellow. And this is still the continuation of the Chassidus between man and his fellow. And I think I'm going to be finishing up that section today, BeEzrat Hashem. So he continues on. So if you're not up to speed on where we were at, check out the last video. Okay, so now he says, having clearly defined both subdivisions of Chassidus indeed, which is between man and Hashem and between man and his fellow, Ramchal cites proofs and examples. And now I will cite for you proofs supporting all of these ideas from the words of the sages of blessed memory, even though these matters are obvious and do not require substantiation. In Tractate Megillah, chapter B'nai Ha'ir 27b, the sages stated the following. The disciples of Rav Zakkai inquired of him, on account of which meritorious practice have you attained longevity? And the commentary says the Gemara there recounts that several sages were asked to identify the meritorious practices to which they attributed their exceptional longevity. For the most part, the commentators assume that these practices must so be on the letter of the law, as one would not merit exceptional longevity through basic adherence to the halacha, which is required of everyone. Consequently, they explain how these practices are indeed examples of going beyond the letter of the law. The Ramchal obviously agrees with this assertion. Okay, and he continues on. So he said to them, in all of my life, I never urinated, excuse my French, that's the word that it says here, within 4 amos of a place of prayer. And a commentary here says, in ancient times where there was virtually no public sanitary facilities, it was accepted practice to do that at the side of the road or in a field. Strictly speaking, one may I'm just saying do that instead of using that word. It's kind of obvious what I already told you that. In such a place, even if he prayed there, provided that he waits a short time after he has concluded prayer. And Rav Zakkai, however, would not do it even in the close vicinity of any place that had once been used for prayer. That's from the Rashba. So he said that. And I never coined a nickname for my fellow. Ramchal will soon explain the Chassidus of this practice. And I never neglected to recite the Kiddush of the day of rest, which is Shabbat. The commentator here says Rav Zakkai obviously meant to say that he never neglected to recite Kiddush on wine. For otherwise, this practice would not have been noteworthy, as reciting Kiddush, at least on bread, is obligatory. That's from the Rashba and the Ran. Okay, then he continues on. So concerning this last practice, Rav Zakkai added, I had an elderly mother. One time when I was lacking funds to buy wine, she sold the veil that she wore over upon her head, and she brought me wine for the Kiddush of the day, which she had purchased with the proceeds. And Ramchal comments, here you have examples of both aspects of Chassidus indeed. Rav Zakkai practiced the Chassidus that relates to observing the intricacies of the mitzvot, for he was certainly exempt according to the law from procuring wine for recitation of the Kiddush, since he lacked the means to purchase it, to the point that his mother had to sell the veil on her head in order to raise funds, but he nevertheless did so as an expression of the trait of Chassidus. And the commentary says that presumably Rav Zakkai's mother would not have sold her veil to procure funds for her son's Kiddush wine unless she knew that he was scrupulous upon using wine for this mitzvah and would be deeply pained if he had to recite Kiddush over bread in the absence of wine. That's from Ben Yehoyada. So here, she understood that her, excuse the noise if you're hearing that, she understood that her son was very, like we use the word mendactic, like very strict, like this was stringent, that he only would use wine for his Kiddush. So that's why she decided, to do that. And he continues on. And he also practiced the Chassidus that pertains to the honor of one's fellow, for he never addressed his fellow with a nickname, even a non-derogatory nickname, as Tosfot explains there. And the commentary says that calling someone a derogatory nickname is an extremely severe offense. See Baba Metzia 58b. Rav Zakkai certainly did not merit longevity for avoiding that. Tosfos explained that he avoided using even non-derogatory nicknames. This is considered a praiseworthy practice because using a person's formal name demonstrates heightened respect for him. That's from the Yavetz. Ya'avetz. Vetz. Am I pronouncing it wrong? Okay. And he continues on. Another such incident of Chassidus, Rav Huna, too, was very particular to recite Kiddush over wine, such that he even tied a grass cord to secure his clothing, because he had sold his belt to procure funds to buy wine for Kiddush of the Shabbat day, as related in Tractate Megillah. So here he had to use that because he sold his belt. So it just shows you how strict he was. And now he continues. Further illustrations of both categories of Chassidus indeed. Additionally, it is stated there in Tractate Megillah, the disciples of Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua inquired of him, on account of which meritorious practice have you attained longevity? He said to them, in all my days I never used the synagogue as a shortcut, and I never stepped over the heads of the people of the holy nation. See, this first practice is an example of Chassidus as it pertains to the honor of the synagogue. And the commentary says it is generally prohibited for anyone to use a synagogue as a shortcut. However, if it was constructed on a pre-existing public path, or if one had originally entered for the permissible reason, one may do so. Rav Elazar ben Shemuel's Chassidus was that he never made use of these dispensations. He was very strict. That's from the Rashba and the Meiri. Okay, and then he continues on the Ramchal. And the second practice is an example of Chassidus as it pertains to protecting the honor of people, taking care not to step over their assemblage, so as not even to appear as if he is demeaning them. And commentary says, during Talmudic times, students would sit on the floor, and one who walked through their ranks would appear as he was stepping on their heads. This practice is actually prohibited, and see Sanhedrin 7b, but there is a dispensation for a Torah scholar who is needed by the public. See Vamos 105b. Although Rav Elazar ben Shemua met this criterion, he nevertheless avoided the appearance of stepping over Jews. That's from Maharsha and Turei Evan. Okay, and the Ramchal continues. Additionally, it is stated there, the disciples of Rav Preda inquired of him, on account of which meritorious practice have you attained longevity. So here we're going through different rabbis where they're asking them what you did. I just wanted to say that, emphasize that. So now Rav Preda, he said to them, in all my days, no person ever preceded me to the house of study, and I never recited Birkat HaMazon in the presence of a Kohen. Commentary says, he allowed the Kohen to lead the Birkat HaMazon. In earlier times, only the person leading the Zimun would actually recite the Birkat HaMazon, while everyone else would discharge their obligation by listening to him. The equivalent nowadays would be leading the Zimun. And if a Kohen is a Torah scholar of greater or equal stature, the non-Kohen is obligated to defer to him. And in such situations, there would be nothing praiseworthy about Rav Preda's practice. Rav Preda deferred even when the Kohen was a lesser Torah scholar than he. Megillah 20, that's from Megillah 28a with Tosfot and Rashba. So he's saying that he went even beyond it. Like, even if the Kohen was not such a great Torah scholar, he would still defer to him. So that was his merit. And also he said, this Rav Preda says, he continues, Ramchal, nor did I ever eat the meat of an animal whose priestly gifts had not been separated. Commentary says that priestly gifts refers to the right foreleg, the jaw, and the stomach of any slaughtered kosher animal, which must be given to the Kohen. That's from Devarim 18:3. There's an opinion that it is actually forbidden to eat from an animal before these gifts have been separated. Although halacha does not follow this opinion, Rav Preda conducted himself according to that stringent view. Adhering to a more stringent opinion than absolutely required is an aspect of Chassidus. That's from Ramchal in Mesillas Yesharim, Seder Bekuach, chapter 21. So each of these rabbis that we mentioned, and I don't know if there's going to be any more, I think there might be, there are, you could see that they went beyond. That's why it's considered Chassidus. So now the sage is stated additionally, and the disciples of Rav Nechunya ben Hakana inquired of him, on account of which meritorious practice have you attained longevity? He said to them, in all my days I never derived honor from the shame of my fellow, nor has my fellow's curse climbed with me onto my bed. And the commentary says that is before going to sleep, he would forgive anyone who had wronged him that day. That's from the Gemara. And many people follow this practice during the recitation of the Bet HaShema. There's a portion, if you read that in the beginning, where it says that, that you say anyone who's hurt me in my, with my money or my this or my that, my body, my soul, there's a thing that you say, that people say that before they go to sleep. Okay? And then he continues. And the Gemara there explains his first practice. Rav Nechunya never derived honor from the shame of his fellow, as in this following story involving Rav Huna, who was carrying a spade on his shoulder. And this commentary says the type of behavior that Rav Nechonyah avoided is illustrated with a similar incident involving Rav Huna, a later sage. So he's going to tell it now. So now, Rav Chana bar Chanilai came along and attempted to lift it off him. So here he was saying that the story was that Rav Nechonyah... the story involved Rav Huna, who was carrying a spade on his shoulder, and then Rav Chana was trying to lift it off him. So Rav Huna said to him, "If you are accustomed to carrying such utensils in your hometown, then carry my spade. But if not, because in your town you would consider it demeaning to carry a spade on the street, then do not carry my spade, as deriving honor for myself through your degradation is not agreeable to me." So he's telling him that if it's okay in where you live, you can carry it. If not, then don't. Okay, and then the Ramchal elaborates on the uniqueness of this behavior. Now we see here that even though the connotations of gaining honor, quote, through the shame of one's fellow, which the sages describe as a very grave transgression, and commentary says one who regularly commits this transgression stands to lose his share in Olam Haba. That's from Yushalmi Chagiga 2:1 and Rambam Hilchos Tshuva 3:14, and also Rambam's commentary Mishnah and Sanhedrin 10:1, before Hayesod Rishon. And obviously refraining from it cannot be considered an application of Chassidus. Okay, and so he says here that that's a grave transgression if you're shaming one's fellow. And Ramchal continues, a grave transgression refers to one who actually makes an effort to disgrace his fellow, so that through this degradation his own honor will increase. Meaning, I'm saying this, you're putting someone down so that you can make yourself higher, Nevertheless, for Hasidim, it is unbecoming to receive any honor. This is Ramchal continuing. Even if his fellow is the one who comes and suggests that he receive this honor, and is thus completely amenable to completely amenable to it, if that honor will be a cause of disgrace for his fellow. Thus, the Chassid's definition of gaining honor through the shame of one's fellow is much broader than the strict halachic definition of this term. They're saying that they go beyond that. What we just said. Okay. Now, a final illustration of Chassidus in deed. And Rav Zera expresses a similar idea when asked why he merited longevity. He answered, "In all my days I never expressed displeasure in my house." Commentary says, although a person may establish himself as an authority figure in his home, see Gittin 6b, Rav Zera was careful never to actually display anger or even displeasure. See Marsha, see above chapter 11 at notes 120 and 121. And surely Rav Zera never expressed displeasure outside his home. And he continues on the Ramchal, "Nor did I ever walk in front of someone greater than I." And then the commentary says, a person certainly should not walk in front of one who's greater than he. See Yoma 37a, Yoredeah 242, 16 through 17. And Rav Zera was extremely careful when walking at the side of his teacher or a great person, never to take even one step ahead. That's Marsha and Sisha Yoredeah as well. And so then Ramchal continues, "Nor did I ever think about Torah matters in streets containing filth." And the commentary says that engaging in Torah thoughts in the presence of human waste is actually forbidden. See Brachos 24b and Yoredeah 246:26. Nevertheless, Rav Zera considered his observance of this stricture especially worthy of merit, since it is very difficult for most people to achieve. That's from Merome Sadeh, Rashba, and Maharsha. And Rav Zera's extreme care in this matter is all the more remarkable considering the fact that he would ordinarily not walk 4 amos without being immersed in Torah, as we are about to learn. Okay, and then Ramchal continues. He says, "Nor did I even walk 4 amos without studying Torah or without wearing tefillin. Nor did I ever sleep in the study hall, not a regular sleep nor a nap." And the commentary here says brief naps are permitted in the study hall. That's called the Beit HaMidrash, as opposed to a synagogue, which is the Beit HaKnesset. That's from Shulchan Aruch Or Chaim 151.3. But Rav Zera avoided even such permitted sleep. That's Maharsha says. And alternatively, Rav Zera was referring to the study hall that he frequented. Torah scholars and their disciples are allowed even regular sleep in their fixed study hall. That's Mishnah Berurah 151:16. But Rav Zera refused to make use of this dispensation. And he also continues, Ramchal, "Nor did I ever rejoice in the stumbling of my fellow." And the commentary here says, rejoicing at someone else's failure is prohibited to everyone. Rav Zera, however, would not rejoice even with a benefit he received if it came at the expense of another. For example, if someone in dire need of funds was forced to sell something at a discount, and Rav Zera purchased it, he would receive no happiness from the purchase since it came at his fellow's distress. That's in Maharsha. Okay, and then he also says, "Nor did I ever call my fellow by his nickname." So that's the Ramchal continues. And thus you have been shown examples of deeds of Chassidus that are manifestations of all the ways of Chassidus indeed that we mentioned above, both in the fulfillment of mitzvot and in the relation to one's fellows. The sages explicitly advise about both components of Chassidus indeed. The sages of blessed memory further stated in Baba Kama 30a, Rav Yehuda says, one who wishes to be a Chassid should fulfill the matters of tractate brachot. This is advice for attaining the Chassidus that is between man and his creator, since the tractate deals with blessings and prayers. And the commentary says that tractate brachot contains numerous illustrations of serving Hashem in an elevated manner, such as the Mishnah's teaching, 30b, that the Chassidim of old would spend an hour preparing for each prayer. That's from Rashba. Okay, and he continues, Ramchal. The Gemara continues. Others say he should fulfill the matters of tractate Nezikin. And the commentary says that this refers to the tractate Baba Kama, Baba Metzia, and Baba Basra, which the Gemara view as three parts of one large tractate called Nezikin, which means damages. That's from Nimukei, Yosef, and also see Avodah Zarah 7a. This tractate discusses all aspects of interpersonal dealings and contains many examples of Chassidus in this area. That's from Rashba. Okay, and he continues, Ramchal. This is advice for attaining Chassidus that is between man and his fellow. The Gemara concludes, and some say he should fulfill the matters of tractate Avot. This is because there, in the teaching of tractate Avot, are incorporated concepts from all components of Chassidus. And the commentary here says, Nimukei Yosef explains that all these opinions agree that the totality of Chassidus indeed encompasses, goes beyond the letter of the law in both areas. The discussion pertains merely to the minimum criteria for being considered a Chassid. Each of the first two opinions sets forth one area in which a person must excel in order to deserve the title Chassid. He must go beyond the call of duty, either in his service of Hashem, which is fulfilling the words of brachos, that's the Gemara brachos, or in his interaction with his fellows, fulfilling the words of Nezikin. The last opinion establishes that the true Chassid is only someone who excels in both areas, that's fulfilling the words of Tractate Avos. And the Maharsha and the Maharal in Chidushe Agados have a different approach. They agree that the first two opinions correspond to man's relationship with Hashem and man's relationship with other people, as Ramchal explained. But they understand the third opinion as referring to the third component of Chassidus, which is Chassidus between man and himself, which is the perfection of character. And this is where I'm going to stop. So now you got a lot of information to ponder over, but learning from these, I'm just saying this. You see how these other rabbis, what they did to merit, what they call arichas yamim, longevity in their life, is because of the things that they did, which were beyond the letter of the law, with, not shaming their fellow, doing things not to cause them dishonor, or anything like that. So that's very interesting, things that we could learn to try to apply ourselves. And I hope and pray that we will all merit to live and see the coming of Mashiach speedily in our days and the rebuilding of our final and everlasting Beit HaMikdash. Amen, and thanks for watching.